The woman who didn't smelleth morning sky was gray, heavy with the kind of clouds that promised rain, but never quite delivered. It was quiet outside the small corner cafe on Ashbury Street, except for the occasional hiss of tires over damp pavement. Inside, the smell of freshly ground coffee beans, warm cinnamon, and clean wooden tables filled the air. A man walked in quietly, unnoticed. He wore a worn-out brown jacket and a dark beanie. His beard was scruffy, and his eyes looked tired, but gentle. He stood for a moment near the entrance, not saying a word. He scanned the room slowly, his gaze pausing at the counter, where a young woman was tying her apron with short, irritated movements. Her name was Lily. She didn't look up as she pulled the register drawer open, her jaw tight. The other waitress, a cheerful girl named Maria, was chatting with a couple near the window, refilling their mugs with practiced ease, but Lily stayed near the espresso machine, her back tense, her hands busy even when there wasn't much to do. The man approached the counter slowly. "Good morning," he said softly. Lily didn't answer. She glanced at him briefly, then looked past him toward the window. Her fingers tapped the edge of the cash register. "You looking for a table?" she asked, her tone flat. He nodded. "If that's all right, take number 7, it's clean." He smiled gently and walked to the table she pointed at near the back, away from the windows. He didn't complain, didn't say anything else. He just sat down quietly and placed his hands on the table, watching the steam curl from the mugs being carried to other customers. Lily came over with a notepad. She didn't offer the usual smile. She didn't ask how his morning was. "What do you want?" He looked at her thoughtfully, then said, "Just coffee, black, please." She scribbled it down, turned, and walked away. Maria gave her a puzzled look from behind the counter. "Hey, isn't that Keanu Reeves?" she whispered. "Are you serious?" Lily rolled her eyes. "So what?" Maria blinked. "He owns this cafe. That's the guy from the article in the back office. He bought this place last year, but said he wanted it to run like any other cafe. You didn't recognize him." "I recognize him," Lily said, pouring the coffee. "He's just another customer today." Maria opened her mouth to say something but closed it again. Something in Lily's voice said not to push. It wasn't just annoyance. There was pain in it. Lily brought the coffee to Keanu's table and set it down a little too hard. "Here," he nodded again, his smile still quiet. "Thank you." She walked away without another word. In our past, customers came and went. Keanu stayed. He didn't pull out his phone. He didn't call anyone. He just watched. He watched Maria laugh with a customer who had brought his dog. He watched the steam fog the window, and every now and then, he glanced at Lily. When he finally stood up to leave, he walked to the counter again. "Thank you for the coffee," he said. "It was just what I needed." Lily didn't respond. Maria, standing nearby, was more cheerful. "We hope to see you again." Keanu turned to Lily. "What's your name?" She looked up at him then, finally meeting his eyes. Hers were tired, guarded. "Why do you want to know?" He shrugged. "Because people deserve to be seen." She stared at him, then turned away. "It's not important." He gave her a small smile. "Okay. Take care." And with that, he left. But the next day, he returned. And the day after that. Always alone, always quiet, always sitting at table 7. Sometimes he ordered just coffee, sometimes a slice of banana bread. But always, he said thank you, and always, she barely looked at him. Weeks passed. Then, one rainy afternoon, Maria was out sick, and Lily had to cover both ends of the cafe. She was already overwhelmed when the dishwasher broke down. The manager was off-site, and Lily had burned her wrist on the espresso machine just minutes earlier. She tried to hide the pain, wiping her hand on her apron and rushing orders out to customers. Keanu watched all of it, from table 7. She didn't ask for help. She never would. But she was clearly struggling. Then a customer knocked over his drink. Lily hurried over with paper towels, muttering apologies, even though the customer had been rude. Her injured wrist brushed the table, and she flinched. Keanu stood up and quietly walked over. "Do you want me to handle that?" he asked gently. She looked at him like he had spoken a foreign language. "Why would you do that?" He smiled. "Because I can." She stared at him for a long moment, then shook her head. "This is my job." He nodded. "I understand. But it doesn't mean you have to hurt yourself to prove anything." She didn't respond. He returned to table 7. But an hour later, when she dropped her notepad and spilled a drink tray behind the counter, he was there again. This time, he crouched beside her. "I know what it's like to be exhausted," he said softly, "and to pretend you're not." She froze. The cafe was quiet for a moment. The clatter of cups, the hum of soft music, the distant whisper of rain. Then, quietly, she said, "I don't need your help." He didn't move. "Okay, but I'm here anyway." She stood up. He handed her the scattered cups. As she took them, their fingers brushed. And for the first time since he'd started coming in, she looked at him with something that wasn't anger. It was confusion, fear, and something else. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked. He hesitated, then said, "Because I think there's something about this place that needs healing, and I think maybe you're part of it." She didn't know what to say. But that night, when she closed up, she found something tucked under the salt shaker at table 7. A folded note on it, in simple handwriting, were the words, "You matter, even on the days you think you don't." She sat down at the table, holding the note in her hand for a long time, and for the first time in months, she cried. But not from pain, from something softer, from something she thought she had forgotten how to feel. Hope. The letter she didn't throw away. Next morning, the sun returned. It wasn't bright or warm yet, but it lit the cafe windows enough to cast soft golden lines across the wooden floor. Lily stood behind the counter, staring at the small note in her hand, the same one she had found under the salt shaker. At table 7. She had almost thrown it away. She had almost convinced herself it didn't mean anything. People wrote kind things all the time, right? But something in the way it was written, in the careful way it was folded, made her pause. And now, here she was, opening the cafe 10 minutes early, her apron tied neatly, her hair pulled back with more care than usual. She didn't really know why. Maria returned that day, cheerful as ever, asking how it went without her. Lily just nodded and said, "Fine." But Maria noticed something. Lily's shoulders were less tense. Her voice didn't have the same sharp edge. And when Keanu walked in at 8:05, just like always, Lily looked up, just for a second, and didn't look away. He smiled at her. Not a wide smile, just enough to say, "I see you." She walked over with the notepad. "Coffee?" she asked. He raised an eyebrow. "Same table?" She nodded. "Same order, unless you want to change it." He shook his head gently. "No, it's perfect." She returned minutes later with the cup and set it down carefully. "Thank you," he said, just as he always did. But this time, she didn't walk away. She stayed. "What do you do?" she asked, her tone cautious. He looked at her, surprised by the question. "Me?" he asked. She nodded. He sipped the coffee. "I act, sometimes. I write, and I try to listen." She gave him a half smile. "Listen." "Yeah. People don't always need advice. Sometimes they just need someone to listen." She crossed her arms. "And you think people want to talk to you?" He didn't take offense. He just looked down at the coffee. "No, I don't assume that. But sometimes they do." She hesitated, then said, "You're different than I expected." "How did you expect me to be?" "I don't know. Flashy. Full of yourself." He laughed softly. "I think the world has enough of that already." She blinked. She wasn't sure what to say next. Then a customer called for a refill, and the moment passed. But the wall between them, it cracked. That afternoon, when business slowed, Maria caught Lily staring out the window, deep in thought. "You okay?" Maria asked. Lily nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine." Maria lowered her voice. "You sure? You've been different. Different good or different bad. Just different. Like something changed." Lily didn't answer, but she reached into her apron pocket and touched the note again. She still hadn't thrown it away. 3 days later, Keanu came in and found table 7 already taken by a couple. He didn't complain. He simply sat at the stool near the corner bar. Lily saw it immediately. She brought over the coffee without being asked. "Sorry," she said, nodding toward the full table. "Guess someone else needed your spot." He smiled. Maybe they needed it more today. She leaned on the counter for a moment. Why this cafe? He looked at her. You mean why do I come here? Or why did I buy it? Both. He paused. I bought it because it reminded me of something I'd lost. A place that used to feel like home. She tilted her head. And now, I come because something here feels unfinished. She blinked. Unfinished. He nodded. Like there's a story that hasn't ended yet. Lily's face stiffened a little. You mean me? He didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, he said, only if you want it to be. Lily turned away. Some stories don't have happy endings, she whispered. He didn't flinch. Some don't. But some just haven't found the right page yet. That night, when they were closing, Maria found Lily scrubbing the same table 3 times. Hey, Maria said softly, what's going on with you and Mr. Mysterious? Nothing, Lily said quickly. Maria smirked. You sure? Because I saw the way you looked at him when he said your name. I didn't tell him my name. Maybe not out loud. Lily didn't answer. Maria's smile faded. Listen, I know it's none of my business. But if someone is kind to you, maybe don't push them away. Not everyone stays forever. Those words stayed with Lily all night. Especially because Lily knew something Maria didn't. She had already lost someone who was kind. Someone who had stayed until they couldn't anymore. Her brother. It had been 2 years since the accident. 2 years since she got the call. 2 years since the only person who ever made her laugh without trying was gone. After that, everything changed. Her apartment felt hollow. Food lost its taste. Sleep became a struggle. And work became the only place where she didn't have to pretend she was okay because no one cared enough to ask. Until now. Until them. But she didn't want to feel again. Didn't want to hope. Didn't want to open the door only to have it slammed again. Still, she found herself at the back office the next morning, looking at the old article taped to the corkboard, the one Maria had mentioned weeks ago. There, he was, Keanu Reeves, standing with the cafe's first owner, smiling. The headline read, Movie star buys cafe to honor memory of friend who died of cancer. Underneath, in smaller print, he said she made the best coffee in town, and she always made time to talk to strangers. Lily stared at the photo. Then, she went to table 7, even though it was empty, and placed a small white flower in a mug. When Keanu came in at 8:05, he paused when he saw it. She met him at the counter. You come here because of her? She asked. He looked down. I do. She nodded slowly. I lost someone too, she said. He met her eyes. I'm sorry, he said quietly. She nodded again. His name was Matt. He was my brother. Keanu waited, not pushing. He used to say cafes were like confession booths. She said, a faint smile on her lips. People say things here they don't say anywhere else. I believe that, he replied, and he used to leave notes for strangers, little ones, like yours. His smile faded into something softer. He sounds like someone I would have liked. Yeah, she said, voice barely above a whisper. You would have. And then, just like that, the silence between them wasn't cold anymore. It was gentle. Shared. Later that day, Lily taped her brother's old note to the corkboard beside Keanu's article. It said, even if the world forgets you, don't forget yourself. Maria noticed it. She didn't ask questions, but she gave Lily a hug. And for the first time in years, Lily didn't pull away. The customer with no shoes next few days brought a quiet shift. It wasn't loud. No one announced it, but the regulars at the cafe noticed. Lily, the waitress who never smiled, began to speak softer. She didn't joke or laugh, not yet, but her voice no longer carried that hard edge. Her eyes lingered a little longer when someone spoke to her. And when Keanu walked in each morning at 8:05, she no longer pretended not to notice. On Wednesday morning, a man walked in with no shoes. He was barefoot, soaking wet, and shaking from the cold. He wore a dirty coat, torn at the cuffs, and he clutched a plastic bag to his chest like it held something precious. Most of the cafe went silent when he stepped in. Some customers looked away. A woman near the window shifted uncomfortably. Lily noticed first. She wiped her hands on her apron and stepped forward. Sir, she said gently, can I help you? He didn't look at her. He kept his eyes down, voice trembling. I just need somewhere warm. Just for a bit. Maria moved quickly. already reaching for the phone behind the counter. But Keanu, who had just sat at table 7, stood up. "It's okay," he said quietly to Maria. Maria hesitated. Keanu looked at Lily. "Can we give him something hot?" "On me." Double quotes. Lily didn't hesitate. "Yes." She led the man to a stool near the back, away from the door, and brought him a blanket from the storage closet. She poured him coffee, extra hot, and placed a bowl of soup in front of him. He didn't speak for a long time, just wrapped his hands around the mug and closed his eyes. Then, softly, he said, "Thank you. I haven't felt warm in 3 days." Keanu returned to his seat without another word. He didn't make it about himself, but Lily glanced at him more than once. After the man left, his feet dry now, wrapped in clean socks, Keanu had quietly handed to Lily the café. Felt different, a little quieter, a little fuller. That night Lily lingered by table 7 after closing. She wiped it slowly, thinking of the man, the fear in his eyes, the shame. Keanu came back in with a box under his arm. "Forgot something?" she asked. "Kind of," he said. He opened the box and took out a worn wooden sign. "What's that?" He held it up. The lettering was carved by hand. "Everyone is welcome. No exceptions." Lily stared at it. "Where did you get that?" "It used to hang here," he said. "The first owner made it. She believed kindness was the only currency that mattered." "Why'd they take it down?" Someone complained. "Said it encouraged the wrong kind of people." Lily's face tightened. Keanu continued, "But this is my cafe now." He placed the sign gently on the front counter. "You sure?" Lily asked. "Not everyone will like it. I didn't build this place to be liked," he said. "I built it to be honest." Maria walked in from the kitchen, saw the sign, and smiled. "It's about time." The next morning, the sign was up. And that very day, something happened that no one expected. A woman came in with a baby in her arms. She looked exhausted, eyes sunken, shoulders slouched. Her clothes were neat but worn. The baby was crying softly. Lily approached her gently. "You okay?" The woman nodded quickly. Quickly. "Just need a moment. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "Sit," Lily said, her voice soft. The woman blinked. Lily brought her water, then coffee, then a muffin. No questions, no judgment. Keanu watched from his usual spot. When the baby finally fell asleep in the woman's arms, Lily knelt beside her and whispered, "Do you need anything else?" The woman's eyes welled up. "No. One's asked me that in weeks," she said. Lily didn't say anything. She just sat beside her for a while. After the woman left, Maria walked over. "You've changed," she said. Lily looked at her. "No, I just remembered who I was that evening." Keanu stayed after closing. He sat at table 7 as Lily counted the drawer. Then he said, "I didn't come here just to drink coffee." Lily looked up slowly. "No." He shook his head. "I came because I wanted to see what would happen when kindness walked through the door and didn't leave." Lily swallowed hard. He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "An invitation." "To what?" "To help me build something." She opened it. Inside was a letter. Simple, typed. "We're starting a foundation. It's about second chances. I think you should run it." She stared at it for a long time. "Me," she whispered. "You know what it's like to feel invisible," he said. "That makes you the best person to make others feel seen." She shook her head. "I'm not qualified. I've made mistakes. I'm not healed." He nodded. "Exactly." She stared at him, tears rising to the edge of her voice. "Why me?" "Because you didn't look away." Outside, the streetlights flickered. The cafe stood quiet, and inside, at table 7, a woman who had spent years hiding from her pain was being offered something she never expected. Not a job, not a gift, but trust, and something deeper. A beginning. The quiet yes letter stayed in her apron pocket for 3 days. Lily didn't read it again. She didn't answer Keanu's invitation. She kept serving coffee, wiping tables, and avoiding questions. Every time Maria asked about the envelope, Lily just shrugged. "It's nothing," she said. But Maria wasn't fooled. "It's not nothing," she said one night while they were closing. "He doesn't write notes for just anyone. You know that." "He doesn't know me," Lily replied. Maria raised an eyebrow. He's been coming here every day for almost 2 months, and he sees more in 5 minutes than most people see in a year. Lily didn't argue. She just tucked the envelope back into her pocket and turned off the lights. But when she got home, she didn't sleep. Instead, she sat on the floor of her small apartment, the envelope in front of her like it might explode if she touched it wrong. She hadn't let herself dream in so long. It was easier to just survive, safer. The last time she had let herself believe in something, it had ended. With a funeral, a hospital room, a brother she couldn't save. What if this was the same? What if it started with hope and ended in silence? She finally picked up the envelope and opened it again. The letter was simple. We believe in second chances. We believe in people who've been overlooked. We believe in the kind of kindness that doesn't ask for attention. We're starting a small team to run a foundation that helps people back on their feet. If you're reading this, it's because we see that in you. No pressure, no timeline. Just think about it. At the bottom, a handwritten note in Keanu's quiet scrawl. You already know how to lead. You just forgot. She pressed the letter against her chest and closed her eyes and whispered the word she hadn't said in years. Maybe. The next day, she didn't say anything to Keanu when he walked in, but she brought him his coffee before he even asked, placed it in front of him and looked him in the eyes. I haven't decided, she said. He nodded, but I'm thinking about it. He smiled, and that was enough. But the world had its own way of testing people when they start to change. 3 days later, a man in a suit walked in during the lunch rush. He was tall, impatient, and loud. You, he said, pointing at Lily. You messed up my order last week. I want a refund. Lily blinked. Sir, I don't remember. Of course you don't, he snapped. Too busy playing charity with your homeless friends. Is that what this place is now, a soup kitchen for bums? The cafe fell silent. Maria stood frozen near the counter. Keanu looked up slowly from his table. Lily's jaw clenched. Her hands trembled, not from fear, from rage. But instead of yelling, she stepped out from behind the counter and faced the man directly. Sir, she said evenly, you're welcome here like anyone else. But you do not get to insult our guests. Guests, the man scoffed. They're strays. Keanu stood up then, his voice calm but strong. Sir, this cafe has a sign over the door. Did you read it? The man rolled his eyes. I don't read signs. Then let me read it for you, Keanu said. It says everyone is welcome, no exceptions. The man snorted. Whatever, I'm calling corporate. Keanu reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a card. He handed it to the man. I am corporate. The man's face twisted. He stared at the card, then at Keanu. You're Keanu Reeves. Keanu nodded. Yes, so this is your charity act, huh? Trying to save the world with muffins and hugs. Keanu's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. No, he said. Just trying to remind people they still matter. The man left, red-faced and speechless. Applause broke out from one corner of the cafe. Acute. Lily didn't smile. She just let out a shaky breath. Keanu walked over to her quietly. You handled that with more grace than I could have, he said. She looked at him. I wanted to throw coffee in his face. He laughed softly. You didn't. That's strength. She looked down. Why does it feel like it's getting harder, not easier? Because you're getting stronger, and strong people feel more, not less. That night, Maria pulled Lily aside. Are you going to take the offer? Lily hesitated. I want to, she said. Then why are you afraid? Because what if I fail? Maria placed her hand gently on Lily's arm. You already survived the hardest thing. Living like nothing matters. Anything after that is worth the risk. Lily was quiet for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and sent a message. I'm ready. The next morning, Keanu greeted her at table 7 with a quiet nod. Welcome, he said. She smiled. Just a little, and for the first time since her brother's death. She felt it in her bones. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was beginning. Again, the woman at the train station. 3 weeks passed. Lily no longer wore the apron every day. She still worked the cafe floor twice a week by choice. But the rest of her time was now spent inside a small upstairs office above the cafe. A room Keanu had personally restored. It wasn't fancy. A second-hand desk, a whiteboard covered in marker notes, an old bookshelf filled with folders and handwritten letters. But to Lily, it felt like standing in the center of something real, something healing. She was now the director of the second table, a foundation Keanu had started to help people who'd been left behind. People like the man with no shoes, the mother with the crying baby, people like herself. Every Tuesday and Thursday, they gave free meals at the cafe to anyone who needed one. Every Friday, they connected someone with temporary housing, a job, lead or therapy support, and every single morning, Lily sat down with a list of names people who had walked through the cafe doors and whispered, "I need help," and she answered. But the more she gave, the more she started to feel something strange. Not exhaustion, not burnout, it was purpose, and yet there was still something missing. One Thursday afternoon, she stood alone in the upstairs office, looking at a photo she had taped to the wall, her brother Matt, smiling in front of a food truck. It was taken 2 months before the accident. He had been volunteering at a shelter that day, handing out hot meals and telling bad jokes to strangers. She touched the photo softly. "You'd laugh at me now," she whispered. "I'm doing exactly what you always said I should." Then her phone buzzed. A message from Maria. "Urgent, come down now, table 7. Her heart jumped. She rushed downstairs. The cafe was quieter than usual, the usual hum of espresso machines and chatter felt distant. At table 7 sat a woman in her late 40s, soaked, barefoot, shaking. Her hair was tangled, her clothes thin. Her fingers were wrapped around a mug of untouched tea. Lily froze. It wasn't her appearance that startled her. It was her eyes. They looked exactly like hers had looked once, blank, drained, on the edge. Maria whispered, "She won't talk. She just sat down and hasn't moved." Keanu stood nearby, arms crossed, face unreadable. Lily walked over slowly and sat across from the woman. No words. Just presence. After 5 full minutes, the woman spoke without looking up. "I missed the train." Lily nodded. "Where were you going?" "Nowhere. That's the problem. I bought a ticket so I could tell myself I had somewhere to be." Lily swallowed hard. "I understand that." The woman looked up. "You do?" "Yes, they told me I wasn't worth saving," she whispered. Lily leaned forward, voice soft. "They were wrong." The woman's hands began to tremble. She blinked fast, trying to keep the tears in. "I don't want to disappear," she said. "You won't," Lily replied. "Not while you're here." Keanu stepped forward and placed a folded blanket around the woman's shoulders without a word. Then he walked away and stood near the door. The woman cried quietly for a long time. Lily didn't move. That evening, after the woman was taken to a nearby shelter where the foundation had a contact, Lily sat on the back steps of the cafe with Keanu. The sky above was purple and pink, streaked with gold. She turned to him. "How do you keep doing this?" "What do you mean?" "Watching people break, and then trying to help them glue themselves back together." He took a deep breath. "I don't see broken people. I see cracked mirrors. They still reflect the light. They just need time." She looked at him for a long moment. "You always talk like you're carrying something heavy," she said. He smiled faintly. "Maybe I am." "Do you ever let anyone help you carry it?" His silence was louder than words. "I think," she said, "you're the one who forgets you matter sometimes." He blinked slowly. "You might be right." And that night, for the first time, it wasn't just Lily who was healing. Keanu, the man everyone saw as the helper, the fixer, the saint, he let himself be human. And for a few seconds, he didn't have to carry everything alone. They sat in silence. To people who had survived grief, carrying the same kind of wounds from different stories. And in the quiet, something unspoken passed between them. Trust. Maybe even something deeper. But neither of them rushed it. They just breathed. The next morning, Lily walked into the cafe early. The sun hadn't fully risen. She turned on the lights, straightened the chairs, and brewed the first pot of coffee. Then she walked to table 7 and placed a note under the salt shaker. Keanu found it an hour later. It read, "We don't fix people. Here, we remind them they're not alone. Thank you for reminding me." He folded the note carefully and placed it in his coat pocket. No one saw him wipe his eyes. And later that day, when Lily passed him behind the counter, She didn't speak. She just reached out, and for a brief second, held his hand. Not for long, just enough. The table that stayed open a month passed. Summer crept into the corners of the cafe, bringing warmth to the wooden floors and golden light through the windows. The second table foundation had grown faster than anyone expected. What began as handwritten notes and quiet kindness had become something much larger. The cafe now offered job connections through local businesses. One of the regulars, a retired teacher, volunteered to teach free reading classes in the evenings. A former lawyer helped people fill out housing forms. Someone brought in a box of shoes every week. Anonymously, it wasn't flashy, but it was working. And in the middle of it all, Lily stood steady, stronger, lighter, and somehow more herself than she had ever been. But one afternoon, Keanu didn't come. He didn't walk in at 8:05 or 8:15 or even by lunch. Maria noticed first. Maybe he's just late, she said, trying to sound casual, but Lily felt something twist in her chest. He had never missed a day, not once. She tried to focus on her usual work, but her hands moved slower. Her thoughts wandered. She checked her phone, nothing. She even called the contact number he had given her months ago for Foundation Matters. It went to voicemail. By evening, worry settled into her bones like cold. She stayed late, pacing near table 7, eyes on the door. Then finally, just before closing, he walked in. But something was wrong. His steps were slow. His shoulders were hunched. His eyes, usually steady and kind, looked distant. Lily hurried over. What happened? She asked. He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Hospital, he said softly. A friend, old friend. Are they okay? He shook his head slowly. Not this time. Lily felt the familiar sting behind her eyes. I'm sorry. He sat down at table 7 without another word. She brought him tea this time, not coffee, thank you, he whispered. She sat with him, even after the cafe had emptied. Maria cleaned quietly in the background, not interrupting. After a long silence, Keanu finally spoke. She was the reason I bought this cafe. She used to say the world doesn't need more heroes. It needs more tables, places where people sit and listen. Lily nodded. She once gave me a note when I was at my lowest. He continued. It said, start small, change one life, then see what happens. He looked at Lily. Double quotes, I think she'd be proud of you. Her throat tightened. And of you. He looked away. I don't know. She touched his hand gently. You reminded me that I could still matter, that I wasn't done, even when I believed I was. So, yeah, she'd be proud. They sat there, hands resting on the table between them. No rush. No expectations. Just presence. That night, before locking the door, Lily walked to the corkboard and pinned a new note beside the others. It said, start small, change one life, then see what happens. She turned the cafe lights off with tears in her eyes. Months passed. Lily now oversaw a team of 10. They expanded to another cafe across town, training staff to carry the same vision. Table 7 remained untouched, always open, even when the rest were full. Sometimes strangers sat there, sometimes old friends, and every now and then, someone would find a note under the salt shaker. Simple messages. You matter. You're not broken. It's okay to start over. One day, a girl with purple hair walked in, nervous, cold, her hands shaking. She sat at table 7. And Lily, now a woman others looked up to, walked over and placed a warm drink in front of her. Hi, she said gently. What's your name? The girl looked up with wide, cautious eyes. Ash. She whispered. Lily smiled. Welcome, Ash. And the story began again. Not an ending, but a circle, because healing never ends. It just passes from one person to the next. And kindness stays, especially at the second table.